This is an open letter to Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. Mr. Zuckerberg, your message to welcome Muslims and protect their rights is nice, but it would have been nicer if you had talked about Islamic terrorism and supported the victims of the terrorist attack in San Bernardino, the ones who lost their families and loved ones, not the ones who are afraid of an imaginary Islamophobia. Since you are Jewish, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Why did the Jewish people leave the Muslim world if Islam is a peaceful religion? Why is the Jewish population targeted in every country by Islamic terrorism? I'm Moroccan myself, and I know the history of Moroccan Jews. They were forced to walk barefoot. They were forced to wear marks on their clothes. They had faces of monkeys and pigs drawn on their clothes, if you read history. Now, they all left Morocco, except few hundred that are still there. Jews cannot live in the Muslim world because Islam is a hostile religion toward the Jews. Being a former Muslim, I know that. It's a fact. I was raised to hate Jews and Christians because of the Quran and the Hadith. I wonder if Mr. Zuckerberg ever read what Islam teaches about Jews. Let me read some verses and hadiths. Hadiths are the sayings of Muhammad, to give you a clear picture. The first verse, "O you who believe, do not take the Jews and the Christians for friends. They are friends of each other. And whoever amongst you takes them for a friend, then surely he is one of them. Surely Allah does not guide the unjust people." This verse, we read it in our prayers, and still being preached in mosques everywhere in the world, even today. It's a holy text. It's an order from Allah Himself. Are you willing to tolerate this intolerance? Verse 2. The Jews say Uzair, Ezra, is the son of Allah, and the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. These are the words of their mouths. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieved before. May Allah destroy them. How they are turned away. Muslims recite this verse as well in their prayers. They pray, may Allah destroy Jews and Christians. This is a holy text. A true follower of Islam should pray for the destruction of Jews and Christians. Are we going to allow this in the name of freedom? Or because we do not want to be called Islamophobes? I do not want a Muslim to be my neighbor if he believes that Allah asked him to recite this text and to believe it, which may lead him to act upon it. The Quran considers Jews as the worst enemies of Muslims. It says, "Certainly you will find the most violent of people in enmity for those who believe," means Muslims, "to be the Jews and those who are polytheists." These verses are just a few examples of the doctrines behind the hatred toward Jews in the entire Muslim world. Mr. Zuckerberg, because you are Jewish, you are considered a descendant of those whom Allah turned to apes and pigs, as mentioned in the Quran. It says, "And certainly you have known those among you who exceeded the limits of the Sabbath. So we say to them, be apes, despised and hated." Jews are despised and hated according to the Quran. Allah turned them to apes and pigs because they desecrated the Sabbath. This verse includes Mark Zuckerberg as well. I'm not sure how you will feel if you are invited to a Muslim congregation and they started reading this verse as a part of their rituals. Hatred speech is not limited to the Quran. It's also in the Hadith, the sayings of Muhammad. Muhammad said to his followers, "Do not greet the Jews and the Christians before they greet you. And when you meet any one of them on the roads, force him to go to the narrowest part of it." Does this sound like a friendly text? How about this hadith, which was one of the last sayings of Muhammad? He said, "Let there be curse of Allah upon the Jews and the Christians, for they have taken the graves of their apostles as places of worship." Jews and Christians are to be cursed according to this hadith. I'm asking influential people like you to be wise, to be truthful, and to show both sides of the coin. Islam has a problem in its core belief system. We have to address it boldly. Muslims are welcome to live and to be part of any society, but they have to reject these kinds of beliefs. They have to welcome others as they welcome them. The burden is not on the international community to welcome Muslims. The burden is on Muslims to deal with their own religion and find solutions to these doctrines in it that are producing more terrorists than any other faith nowadays. Muslims are not dying because the West rejected them. It's the opposite. Westerners are dying because they welcomed Muslims among them. I ask Mr. Zuckerberg to be brave enough to tell Muslims that we love you as people, but we do not like the hatred component in your religion. You have to deal with it. Welcoming Muslims and ignoring the problems in Islam is not a solution. It's just another problem. It's called political correctness. Note that my parents are Muslims and I love them. But still, I say the truth, and the truth hurts.